Welcome to This Birding Life, a podcast for birdwatchers everywhere. I'm your host, Bill Thompson III. This Birding Life comes to you from the big birdhouse at Birdwatchers Digest, where we're celebrating 40 years of publishing great content for birders. Sample our smorgasbord of great content at birdwatchersdigest.com. This Birding Life is sponsored by three wonderful and wise organizations: Carl Zeiss Sports Optics, makers of the amazing Victory SF binocular and the new and equally amazing Harpia spotting scope. Join the Zeiss community of birders at facebook.com/ZeissBirding. Cork Expeditions is the leader in polar adventures, and they've partnered with Noah Stricker for a brand new birding expedition sailing from South Georgia to Cape Verde. Noah will act as field guide and onboard lecturer as passengers explore some of the world's most remote islands in search of rare and endemic birds. Learn more at corkexpeditions.com. Finally, the American Birding Expo is your opportunity to experience the world of birding in one place. Next September 21 to 23, that's 2018, in Oaks, Pennsylvania, just outside of Philadelphia. More than 125 exhibitors from all over the world and from every aspect of the birding market will be there. Learn more at birdingexpo.com. Now on to our episode. This is episode 74, Birding in Taiwan. In late October of 2017, I was part of a group of tour operators invited for a week of birding in Taiwan, the island nation located in East Asia off the southeastern coast of China and south of Japan. This 8-day familiarization trip was designed to give us a taste of Taiwan's bird life, people, culture, landscape, and infrastructure in hopes of encouraging more birding tourism in the years to come. My fellow travelers were all international tour operators, 4 of us from the United States and 2 from Ecuador. But none of us had ever been to Taiwan before, and several had never even been to Asia before. So we had great anticipation for seeing a new country and new birds. Like most islands, Taiwan's big draw for birders is its array of endemic species. Current taxonomy, which changes by the minute, as you know, cites 27 endemic species in Taiwan. And some of these are endemic subspecies that are likely to be recognized as full species soon, or already are recognized. As part of the Asian subcontinent, Taiwan has a rich diversity of birds. At least 520 species have been recorded here, of which about 150 are year-round residents. Taiwan has an interesting history, to say the least. Ruled by tribal native peoples until the 15th century, the island was sighted by Portuguese sailors in 1542 and named Ilha Formosa, or Beautiful Island, and for years it was known as Formosa. This was the start of centuries of domination by foreign powers. First the Dutch and Spanish established colonies there, then the Qing dynasty from China took over, and in the late 1800s, after a war with China, Japan became the ruling government and stayed until ousted at the end of World War II in 1945. Various permutations of governance from China have ruled since then, and the influence of both Japan and China can be seen and experienced in the culture, social norms, architecture, and many other aspects of Taiwanese society. During our tour, we visited more than a dozen birding sites in northern, central, southwestern, and southern Taiwan. We spent time in deep forest and city parks, along rivers, in coastal salt pans, up at altitude above tree line, above 10,000 feet. And as elsewhere in the northern latitudes, this was winter in Taiwan. So breeding season bird activity and song was not very present. We were also too late for fall migration of raptors and songbirds. April through June would be the months for maximum bird activity, we were told, yet we were incredibly impressed with the birds we did encounter, from tiny skulkers like the Taiwan cupwing or wren babbler to the roadside opulence of Mikado and Swinhoe's pheasants. Our birding tour was led by Quan Chie-hung, a leading Taiwanese birding guide. In his capable hands, we were able to nearly sweep the endemics and have excellent encounters with most of the best resident species, including birds like Taiwan magpie, Himalayan tree pie, spotted nutcracker, and bamboo partridge. Our overall trip list was just above 170 species, some of them herd only, but most of them were life birds, which pleased us all. Now, Quan Chia Hung goes by the English name of Chuck. And here is Chuck telling us about birding in Taiwan early in the trip.
Okay, my name is Guan Jie Hong, and you can call me English. English name is Chuck. It's easier. And I am an English bird guide, English-speaking local bird guide based in Taiwan, and I own a website called Taiwan Bird Guide.
Okay.
Yes.
And how long have you been guiding, Chuck?
My first tour is in my last year of the graduate school, 2009.
Okay.
And after I spent a year in military base. I started guiding full time from 2011 to 2013.
Okay.
And I accepted a full time job for two days and goes back in these 3 days again.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what did we just hear there?
It's a Taiwan Yuhina, yeah.
Taiwan Yuhina. So, what would you say are the main attractions for somebody coming to Taiwan, bird-wise?
And in the first, people come to Taiwan usually is because we have 25 to 30 endemic, and according to some trip report, we can see most of them even in a week. Yeah, but it's a first impression for most of my clients. But after they come to Taiwan, they found the landscape is beautiful, the infrastructure is good, the food is better than their expectations. So not only bird and other part of Taiwan will make them happy.
Yeah. And friendly people too.
Yeah, friendly people.
Except for you. You're not very friendly.
Yes.
Now tell us just a little bit about this forest that we're in right now and this park that we're in.
Now we are in Daxueshan National Forest Recreation Area, and this area was used to be the working station for logging industry.
Okay.
But the logging has been prohibited since late 1980s. So so this kind of the logging stations become forest recreational areas.
Okay.
So we have a lot of the beautiful native or the secondary forests with good roads drive from downtown into the forest recreation areas, and in the area, every trail is well maintained.
Yeah,
so,
it has been very well maintained.
Yeah, so it's become an important bird watching site for Taiwanese people.
Okay.
Or birders visit Taiwan.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Our first stop, almost directly from the airport, was the Taipei Botanical Garden, where, despite being in the middle of a huge city, the bird activity was crazy. We got our first taste of Taiwan birding here with highlights, including Japanese white-eye, Malayan night heron, Taiwan barbet, and oriental magpie robin. Most birders coming to Taiwan want to see the two resident pheasants. These are birds that jump out at you visually when you're thumbing through the field guide, sort of like painted bunting does here in North America. And we were no exception, so we immediately asked Chuck about our chances at seeing these two pheasants as we headed into Daxueshan Forest Recreation Area. Here's Chuck talking about our chances of seeing the pheasants.
Because in Daxueshan, we indicate where we are by kilometers on the Daxueshan Trail. So it starts from 0, from the downtown to 50. From 300 meters to 2,500 meters to 2,600 meters. But the alpine region of Daxueshan is closed due to the road construction. And the feeding site of the Mikado pheasant is closed now. So before we can find Mikado pheasants between 40 to 50K. If there are 10 kilometers, we can look for them. Sometimes they just walk on the roadside and in two specific places we feed them.
But they're inaccessible now.
Yeah, but now is and we can only access 40 to 43K now. So we have only 30% of the roads for their habitats, and the feeding site is not there. And people try to feed them at 41, but not as stable as the traditional feeding site.
Okay.
So another reason we would like to rush to Yushan region is It's because Yushan is another hotspot for mid-total pheasant, especially
It's good for it.
in the afternoon, in late afternoon and in early morning.
Ah, okay, super.
And we will arrive there in late afternoon, so we have
That's
a chance
great.
to find the pheasant on the
Oh,
roadside.
that's great. Fantastic.
We got both pheasants along the roadside as we went into Dashuishan Forest. We saw adult males right along the roadside feeding, picking at the ground. Apparently, these birds are revered in Taiwan, and many Taiwanese toss out corn and seeds to the birds, even though it's illegal. So the birds have become quite habituated to people. I had a male swinhose pheasant literally walk up to me and peck at my shoelace. It was in Dashuishan that I recorded the following early impressions and some conversation with Chuck, Dushan, Lelis, and John about our Taiwan birding trip thus far.
Yeah, so my name is John Yerger. I'm the assistant director at Borderland Tours, and I currently am lucky enough to live in Portal, Arizona, which is a very happening bird area.
Yeah, no doubt. And you have a heck of a yard list, too, I would imagine, in Portal, Arizona.
Getting there, yeah. Not up to the, the long-time birding residents, but, we're working on it.
Right. First time in Asia?
Yeah, actually, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that, sort of struck me is this seems like a really good introduction to birding in Asia. I mean, there's lots of birds. There's plenty of diversity, but it seems like it's easier. It's easy to get around. It's all the infrastructure is really well developed, and the birds, I think, are distinctive enough that there's not a lot of major ID problems. It helps to have somebody like Chuck, helping us find them in their little niches and whatnot.
Right.
But in terms of actually, learning the birds and finding the birds, and it's just been, a pretty good experience.
Yeah. Anything that stands out to you in particular? Because I noticed you were also looking at the trees and the plants and the flowers. But I mean, and the Chinese characters on the signs and trying to learn a few of those. But bird-wise, anything that's really stood out to you?
Yeah, I don't know. I've been actually surprised by, how many sort of charismatic things we've seen. I mean, there's some things, of course, that are always going to be skulkers, but, quite a well, the pheasants, of course, stand out.
Right.
But even, just getting really lucky with some of the laughing thrushes and whatnot, it's been really neat just to, get some close encounters with them.
Yeah. And so where do you guide typically for Borderland?
I've been focused mostly on the United States and then Central and South America.
Okay. And your typical Borderland client is modestly avid birder, or do you have seriously avid birders?
Yeah, that's interesting. That's actually kind of what I've been thinking about this whole trip. This seems like something I'm definitely going to come back here and try and bring a group back, because I think we can do a mix. I mean, we have all of the folks we have, tend to, be very interested in the birds.
Right.
Obviously, that's why they're taking a birding trip.
Right.
But they're interested in everything else. And I think the setting here is really conducive to the everything else part.
Yes.
I mean, before I came to Taiwan, I did a little reading on it, so I knew sort of ahead of time what I was getting into. But prior to that, I probably thought what a lot of other people think. All I knew about Taiwan was the Made in Taiwan stickers on,
Right.
The stuff that, we get at home.
Right.
And it's like, picturing just huge urban development. And I was shocked to find out that like half of the country is forested, and that, all the settlements are kind of concentrated in certain dense areas. I was really surprised to get out here and see how much, widespread sort of natural, habitat there was.
Right.
So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
So I'm Lelis Navarrete from Ecuador, and I'm with the Partnership for International Birding from Colorado, USA.
Okay.
And what you were talking about was my impressions on birding in Taiwan. Well, I did a bit of researching on, so I think some of the expectations have been fulfilled, even though at the beginning, people were thinking that it was not going to be that the case. Some people in the company, but I think it's passed over the expectations I was coming with to start with.
Yeah, we're only 3 days in, so.
Yeah, through this in, and we've seen a lot of endemics.
That's right.
Like two pheasants and the blue magpie, and
Yeah.
it's a wonderful.
Do those
birds.
kind of stand out to you?
Oh yes, certainly. Yeah.
Okay.
Great memories, even for your only third day.
And how does it compare to birding in Ecuador?
Well, it's totally different because it's a different part of the world, but and the season as well. But it's unique,
Right.
And why not? Why not to come? Yeah.
That's right.
I'm Dusan Brinkhuizen, and I'm from the Netherlands. But I don't live in the Netherlands. For the last 11, 12 years, I've like Lilis, I've been living in Ecuador, and I've been doing most of my birding in the last years in South America. And I'm a bird guide for and tour leader for rock jumper birding tours. And well, the people here in Taiwan were super friendly to invite all of us from all over the world. And yeah, this is my first time to Taiwan, and I think it's really awesome. Of course, it's not as many birds as we have in Ecuador, but yeah, it's difficult to compete with a country that's right on the equator.
Right, right. So you seem to have done a lot of homework beforehand coming here.
Well, not a lot, no. But I try always to prepare, to have an idea, and to what to see, and yeah, prepare some bird sounds and find out what are the main targets. Yeah.
Okay, so you're probably somebody who, unlike me,
Yeah.
you could probably rattle off, here were the bird highlights for the last couple of days. So what were your bird highlights?
Well, there were many highlights, but let's mention a few of the highlights apart from those two fantastic pheasants that we got to see. We got to see Swin's pheasant and Mikado pheasant, which are of course incredible birds. And but apart from that, I like the little skulky birds, like the Taiwan wren bobbler. They also call it a Taiwan cupwing. Took a little effort to get that one.
Yeah, how much time do we spend on that one today?
Probably an hour or
A couple
hour and a
hours
half,
almost,
yeah,
I would say.
Yeah. Eventually, everybody got to see it, and yeah. So I like the little skulkers. Well, one bird that we saw on the first day, which was right out of Taipei, was incredible. Is it must be the national bird of Taiwan, I would say, is the Taiwan blue magpie. It's just gorgeous, like incredible. So that's definitely a highlight. And well, the Leo Chicla is, I'm not sure if I pronounce it well. It's Leo Chicla or Leo Cicla or Steers Leo Chicla, let's say.
Yeah, that's what we're going to call you, is Leo Chicla.
Yeah, well, I'm still
First name Leo, last name Chicla. Say it with me. Leo Chicla.
I'm still trying to hunt that little bird to get it on the photo, because look, I got photos of it, but they're all on sharp.
Yeah, well,
So-
it seems like we've had a little bit of a challenge with photography.
Yeah.
I've given
yeah,
up trying
oh,
to
no.
with the big lens. I try to digiscope, but the problem there is not so much the light, because the scope will gather the light, but it's getting everything lined up. Got to get the
And
scope
the stuff moves.
and
yeah.
it moves.
Yeah.
It moves. And of course, we're deep forest a lot of this, so it's the
Yeah.
light's been challenging. And the day we were in the city birding in Taipei, it was very cloudy and kind of low light anyway.
Also, yeah. No, but in general, the birding here in Taiwan is just awesome, because you got all these endemics. They all look fancy. They're not super difficult to find, but on the other hand, yeah, you need a good guide like Chuck, showing us around where to go. And the cool thing I find as well is that Taiwanese people seem to be super interested in nature and birding.
Yeah, what
Maybe-
was that Twitch we went to the other
Yeah,
day?
maybe it's a recent development. I have no idea, but yeah, we went to Twitch this yellow-bellied tit, which is a vagrant to Taiwan, according to our guy Chuck. The third time, I think, in Taiwan, and yeah, we met like over 100 birders with cameras, and we successfully got the tits. Not just one, we got 20 or so.
Well, this was very interesting to
Yeah.
me, because we walked up to that place, and it was literally in a park, in a city park, behind like a building. There's
Yeah.
a bunch of low trees, and there were these tits and a brambling or two, and some
Yeah,
siskins
yeah,
and goldfinches, I guess, that were coming and going. But the weird thing was, and I want to ask your opinion on this too, Chuck. It seemed like, let's say there were 100 people there, Okay, I think there might have been more, but let's just say there were 100 people there. 100 of them had cameras. How many of them also had binoculars?
I think it's about 5 to 10%.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable because it would be totally different in most other parts of the world, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Is that an all of Asia thing or is that a Taiwan thing?
I think it's all of Asia, including China or Japan, because I have a friend who is a bird guide leading Japanese tours. Usually, the comments is always carrying bigger camera
Right.
and no binocular or small binoculars.
Because you can take a picture and look on the screen.
Yeah, because I think Asian people, including Japan or Chinese people in Asia, camera in early years because we are poor. So if you can afford a camera, it's something you can show up to your friends.
Right.
So I know some of the photographers, they know nothing about a bird, but what they just buy the big set of the best and professional body and 600 lens.
Yeah, they can't be poor because those huge lenses that we saw about 100 of them. There's
Right.
Yeah.
600,
Yeah, yeah.
800 millimeter lenses.
Yeah, so in Taiwan, lots of the new birders, they only use cameras. They
Right.
come from this
Uh-huh.
way. So the traditional birders like me watch the bird first and then take photos become rarities.
Yeah.
I guess stuff like Facebook and social media probably also has this develop in that direction that, you know, we maybe in Asia more than other places, but digital photography now makes it so more easy to get these birds on the photo, and with the social media you can share them.
Right.
So it's getting more and more popular. You know, when I was birding back before the digital cameras, you know, you were really saving up
the
your film, because it was just,
And then you didn't get to know how it came out until you sent it away.
Indeed.
Oh my
Usually
gosh.
out of the 36 photos, there was like 2 sharp and the rest,
So before birding is lonely.
Yeah.
It's a challenging
Right.
between birders and the birds.
Right.
But now birding become a lot of social.
Yeah.
And people can take photos together, discussing about the gears, not only binoculars, scope,
Yeah.
but about how to use the camera well and how to.
But the cool thing, to get back to these Taiwanese people that like nature and stuff, is like also, of course we went to Twitch, to this migrant hotspot, but here where we saw the pheasants, everybody stops, everybody goes out of the car, everybody wants.
Well, of course,
enjoys the nature.
Yeah, the Mikado, though, that's a point of national pride, right?
But
Isn't that the
there's
national
birders-
bird?
There's birders everywhere.
And it's the only bird we can find in our note.
Yeah.
And
Money.
money.
Yeah. In the bill, yeah.
Happy up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have an observation about that. I thought it was interesting, especially on that Twitch, just to see, we were talking about how many cameras there are. And I think that, especially in the United States, maybe this is true in other places too, but a lot of photographers, bird photographers, you know, have gotten a really bad rap, you know, and sometimes people think of, you know, not all of them, but certainly some bird photographers as being kind of pushy or, you know, trying, or, you know, maybe harassing the birds or whatever. And that really struck me about seeing all those lenses. Is like everyone was all spread out. Everyone was trying to make sure they weren't in someone else's way.
Yeah.
It was just supreme courtesy.
Right.
And that extended, I think, beyond even the photographers. I think just the Taiwanese, you know, people in general have been super courteous. Like even when we're watching something like the pheasant on the side of the road, they'll come up very cautiously,
Very quietly,
you know,
yeah.
very quietly and unassuming, and just like trying to
Yeah.
stay out of the way, but
You
know,
remem-
still showing the interest. Just, you know,
Right.
You remember this Taiwan bamboo partridge? Just what you say. We were watching these shy, forest-dwelling partridges, and suddenly a group of hikers, over 40 Taiwanese hikers, they hike by. Well, normally you would think 40 people make a lot of noise, but no. As soon as they saw us watching the birds, they sneaked by, and the birds just stayed there.
That's right. That was
Absolutely
impressive.
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 Really, yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna stop that here now, and then we're gonna do another session like this. So thank you guys,
Okay.
all of you, for doing this. All right, let's finish our beers.
Yeah. Gold medal beer.
Later in the week, we visited a temple in Jushan Township to see a special bird. Here's Chuck's preamble to that visit to the temple.
Okay, the first thing is color scope hour now is a very common hour even in downtown. And in the Wildlife Rescue Center in Taipei City, color scope hour is very common. The second is why this temple has hour, and this temple is called Keming Temple in Zhushan Township in Nantou County. Taiwan has, and in 1999 there was a serious earthquake in September 21st, and it happened at midnight and killed thousands of people in a second. And most of the buildings of this region has been destroyed. So the old temple built here.
走那里？从你们刚停车的地方，那边有个牌子，往那边。
没有，他大车过不去。
过不去。
他大车过不去，因为那个太窄了。
那就往这边走。
Sorry. So the original temple has been destroyed. So the local, because every township they have a religious belief center. It's kind of the Taoism temple. So after they raise money and rebuild the temple and established in 2007 or 8 established, and in this kind of temple they always have some paintings on the wall, and because this kind of temple used to be the schools for Chinese culture. So elder people, they will teach their children how to behave well, and because every corner of the temple, every painting can be a story, and people can learn. But of course, there are some temples just for decoration. So, it's the most funny. The funny thing is, they illustrated an owl on the roof. After they finished that illustrations, they found the birds start to roost in the temple during the day.
Nice. Funny.
And because Zhushan is very, very close to Shadow Hill, so still have lots of the trees surrounded by. So what they say is even they close the door, and close the door at 5 or 6 p.m. and the owl can still find a way out.
Wow.
So every day, almost every day, and in early morning, and before around sunset, the bird will fly into a temple and roost for whole day, and in late evening and in late afternoon they will leave. And about 3 or 4 years ago, we still have 2, but now it's only have 1, and it's become a bit irregular, not every day. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's so cool.
What was the name of the temple?
And Zhushan and Keming Temple, Keming Temple.
And here's what it sounded like inside and around the temple, where there was a celebration going on in honor of the birthday of one of the gods of the temple. I set up my spotting scope on the owl and shared a scope view with dozens and dozens of temple visitors who were excited to see the owl so close.
不用抱起来，抱起来你也看不到。谢谢啊。
那有飞走吗？
晚上会飞走。
啊，哪再跟
白天才回来。
Tea is an important part of the culture in Taiwan. On the way to the mountains one afternoon, we stopped for a rest break at a tea house along the highway. Local school children were being instructed in the art of tea preparation, and they invited us for a tasting. Of course, we all went into the tea shop afterwards and bought some of the local tea, which was grown literally right down the hill from where we were sitting. That was our way of saying thanks. Here's what it sounded like during the tea tasting.
What kind of tea is this? It's a oolong black tea.
Oh, caffeine then.
Is this also from the local?
Yeah. One more.
Oh, it's so bright over there.
Okay.
OK， 好 ，Thank you， 谢谢你。你可以继续喝。
I like the small serving.
So what, say again about the 2 pots of tea. I didn't hear
Okay,
that.
this is for the waste, and this is for tea leaf and tea leaf and hot water. So we control the timing
Okay.
and
Wow, that's very nice.
of the tea leaf soaked with hot water. Otherwise, it will be very bitter.
Bitter. Okay.
So after the timing is finished, we pour into other to store
但是要把
for
我
storage,
Got
so
it.
it's not still
and then we dispense these to others.
Got
I
it.
see.
But then that little filter there just
Yeah,
stops.
so we
the
pour
rest.
all of the liquids into this pot.
Got it.
我
So
们
are
是
we
推动
blocking the
地
path?
方
Should
配
we
有
get
学
up,
校
or
农
is
会
this, are we supposed to take
So
this
okay,
up?
because ladies go to buy the tea.
Oh, okay. Alright, this is the second floor off.
Near the end of our trip, we attended the opening and closing ceremonies of the Taiwan Birdathon. I was pleasantly surprised at the number of teams of young people and families participating. Here's one of our hosts, Victor Yu from Ecotourism Taiwan, awarding a Birdathon prize to one of the very young birders on a team. Then we'll hear the young birder give his report of the day's birding.
Great young man. Zhou Jiesheng. His name is Zhou Jiesheng. Big hands, please.
这是昨天的时候，我们去嘉义布袋的时候，在那个湿地旁边的渔翁看到一整群的翻嘴鸻，大概有189只，还有一群黑面琵鹭。然后后面的时候，我们就去另外一个湿地，我们就在那里看那个皮嘴鸭，还有燕鸥，在那里还有看到翠鸟。
那你看完之后的感觉如何？
如何？
是。好，谢谢你，谢谢。But he said that yesterday they went to a wetland area around Budai. They have seen 189 pie opposite and a bunch of black-faced spoonbill, and they feel very, very happy. OK， 就这样子吗？好，谢谢你。Thank you very much. Thank you.
We ended our birding in southernmost Taiwan, seeing black-faced spoonbills, loads of shorebirds, and a final few endemics. Then we loaded onto a bullet train and zipped back north for our departing flights. Along the way, I gathered some final impressions from my traveling companions. Here they are. First, Lilis Navarrete on the bullet train itself, followed by Jerry Connolly, John Yerger, and Dushan Brinkhuisen. Okay, Lilis, we're on our last leg of the trip, and you're the first one to go. You're the first one to fly home from Taipei.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to get, first of all, describe where we are right now.
Well, we're taking the speed train from some of the south cities on Taiwan, heading to Taipei.
Right.
In our way back home.
Have you been on one of these before?
No, it's a really cool experience.
And we had some sushi.
Yeah, delicious as well. I was just learning from Chuck that he was showing me a bit of the history on Taiwan, and there's a very strong influence of the Japanese culture into it, and that's what probably what the good sushi and food we had the very last time.
Yeah. So what are your? We talked at the beginning of the trip about expectations, and what are some of your takeaway thoughts from our week plus here birding in Taiwan?
Well, I think it was a total success. All my expectations are fulfilled completely. It was a great time, because of the company, the friendship we developed in the group, the birding as well. Chuck and people from Taiwan were so welcoming and helpful. It was a great trip. Seeing almost all the Taiwan endemic species of birds is outstanding. I'm really impressed with the culture.
Yeah.
Seeing a different totally different part of the world, different culture, seeing how they do things different than we do in the New World, especially Latin America.
Right.
You know, the culture of respect, the welcoming everybody being so friendly. I think it's a unique thing.
It really is. Well, thanks so much. It's been a pleasure getting to travel with you and hang out a little bit, have a beer or two, and see some birds.
Sure, certainly, and I hope I'll see you somewhere by my home country too.
Yeah, we got to do that. All right, thanks,
Sure.
buddy.
All right, take care.
Jerry, we talked at the beginning of the trip. We're at the end of the trip now. We're in our way station hotel, getting ready to fly back home. You're leaving a little earlier than I am. But looking back on the time we've had here, what are your impressions of Taiwan?
My impressions of Taiwan, well, first from a birding perspective, it's an easy country to bird in. The roads are great. The birds are great. We scored, I think, 26 out of 27 endemic birds, with 27 is just a monstrously large number. Without all that much difficulty in doing it, some of the forest birding can be challenging because the birds they're not as confiding as some areas. In terms of the overall impressions of Taiwan, the most polite people I think I've ever met. Everyone defers to you, and the food was great. The service was impeccable. The lodging was fantastic. It's like I really had never thought about birding Taiwan until this opportunity came up, and I will certainly be coming back.
Excellent. Thanks, man.
Well, I must say the trip went kind of flawless, especially because the local government organized everything, and we had a great guide, and it was actually a power trip, but because in technically 7.5 days of birding, we got like 99% of all endemics, and that's not even in the breeding season. This is the off season. So, bird-wise, it went excellent. We saw not sure how many, but over 20 endemics, and just spectacular endemics at different sites. That was truly a highlight. And then, apart from that, the whole country, the lodging, the reserves, transport, everything just went smooth. And I wish we would do the same trip, but spend at each site 2 days, kind of. But of course, this is kind of a scouting trip,
right?
And we were invited, so they had to put as much as they could in a week.
Right. It was like a sampler.
Indeed. But for a sampler, we nailed it.
Yeah.
I mean,
we did.
Yeah.
I was super impressed with how fully ingrained into the culture here birds seem to be.
Yeah, this is amazing. As I might not have told you, but I just came back from a quick trip from the airport with Chuck and John to do some extra birding.
Right.
And believe it or not, we arrived at the coast 20 minutes from the airport, and there were again cars and birders.
Yeah.
Not just one. No, there were like 20. There were cameras, and they got their little site. There was a bull-headed shrike discovered, and we came there. We twitched it, and then they said, okay, if you want to see the yellow-throated buntings, which is also rare in Taiwan, go 500 meters that way. You'll find another group. So we went there, another 20 birders with the buntings. So, and it was raining, windy. It was bad weather, but no, these guys are out there. They are serious birders here in Taiwan. Cool.
The thing that sort of struck me about the just the logistics of it was it looks like this tiny little island, but it's so mountainous, and the topography is so varied, and the roads are really excellent, but some of them to get into the mountains very windy. Right. It took way longer to bird this place than I thought.
Yeah.
To do it right, to do it thoroughly, and we could spend more time. I think.
Well, didn't Chuck say that you could easily do a 2 or 3 week trip here?
Yeah, and at least, for a tour, I would say, 10 to 12 days you have to do. Yeah. And 8 days it's a little rushed. But you know, and I felt like I really wanted to spend more time with some of these birds. I mean, for me, especially, you know, this being sort of my introduction to Asia.
Right.
Just so many cool birds that are not even the endemics we were trying so hard for it that I just wanted to spend more time with.
And new families.
Yeah. And so that, I think, surprised me was how much effort it took, even though it's such an easy place to get around. So,
Well, favorite moment?
Favorite moment?
Or favorite bird? Or
Yeah. So, actually, I mean, you weren't there for it, I'm sorry. But after we all got to the hotel and we decided to start splitting up, a couple of us, I think Dushan and I, went out with Chuck to just squeeze in some last couple of hours of birding, you know, before it got dark, after a couple folks had to go back to the airport. So we took a taxi to the coast. The taxi just kind of stayed with us the whole time. And it was another place where there was sort of a mini twitch going on. There were, you know, maybe 10 or 20 local photographer birders who were trying to get this, let's see, there was a bull-headed shrike and a yellow-throated bunting. I guess these things aren't like that rare, but it was rare enough for them. They were super stoked about it. So that was cool. But then just the surprises kept on coming. And we had these, I don't know how you would say it, vinous-throated parrot bills. Like 40 of these little bitty rufusy things.
I
with
really
these
wanted
tiny
to see
little parrot bills.
and we didn't get to see them.
I know. But, you know, next time, I guess. Anyway, so that was so cool. Like, we were done. We were ready to pack it in. It was starting to rain. It was super windy. And out of the reeds, just like 40 of these tiny little birds just, you know, come out of nowhere. Like, they just appeared. And that was so cool. For me, that was just a really nice cap to the whole thing.
Yeah. As you heard from my friends on this trip, Taiwan was a wonderful experience for us all. The birds, the people, the landscape, culture, food, lodging, all of it exceeded our expectations. If you've thought about taking a birding trip to Asia, Taiwan would be a great first destination for your list. It's an easy country to visit. The infrastructure is well established. The people are very friendly. And the bird diversity is wonderful, but not overwhelming in its vastness. I'd like to say xie or thank you to the Taiwan Tourism Board for the invitation to visit Taiwan, especially Brad Xie, Victor Yu of Taiwan Ecotourism, and of course Chuck, or Big Chucky Baby as we called him, Quan Chi Hung of Taiwan Bird Guide. He was an incredible guide during our entire 9 days He was an incredible guide during our entire trip. There are lots of useful resources on birding in Taiwan available online. Google is your helper there. But you can look Chuck up specifically on Facebook under Taiwan Bird Guide. Xie also to my fellow travelers, John Yerger of Borderland Tours, Lilas Navarrete of the Partnership for International Birding, Jerry Connolly from the Audubon Shop in Madison, Connecticut, Dorian Anderson of Alvaro's Adventures, and Dushan Brinkhausen of Rock Jumper Birding Tours. It was great traveling with these guys, and all of them are going to be bringing birders to Taiwan in the future. Thanks and happy 40th anniversary to Birdwatchers Digest, the magazine for birders who love to read and readers who love to bird. Learn more at birdwatchersdigest-digital.com. Carl Zeiss Sports Optics is a This Birding Life sponsor and a longtime sponsor, and we thank them for that. They also make top-flight optics for birding. You can join the Zeiss community of birders at facebook.com/ZeissBirding. Cork Expeditions is the leader in polar adventures, offering unparalleled access to the most remote parts of the globe. Learn more at corkexpeditions.com. The American Birding Expo is the world of birding in one place, and we mean it. Join us next fall in Philadelphia and experience for yourself the birding lifestyle. Learn more at birdingexpo.com. That's it for this episode, folks. Subscribe to our RSS feed if you haven't already so you won't miss a single monthly episode. And as always, we'd love to hear your comments. You can send them to me, Bill Thompson III, at editor@birdwatchersdigest.com. Now, while you're listening to the outro here, I'm going to share some of the funny things I took photos with in Taiwan. Roadside things, Pikachu, other oddities. It was just super fun to take pictures with all these neat little things everywhere. So until next time, this is Bill Thompson III saying, I'll see you out there with the birds. Bye-bye.